To order. And we're going to do a quick moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance.
Okay. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Seated. Roll call, please.
Okay. Let the record show Commissioner Morose is absent. Commissioner Pollock-Rude?
Present.
Commissioner Serco? Let the record show Commissioner Serco is absent. Commissioner Edison?
Present.
And Commissioner Sotile?
Present.
Perfect. Well, everyone, welcome to the El Cajon Planning Commission meeting. This meeting is being live streamed on the City of El Cajon website. Appeals of final decisions of the Planning Commission made this evening must be filed in writing to the City Clerk before 5 p.m. Monday, March 20th, 2023, and must include the payment of a filing fee. If you wish to speak on either a non-agenda or agenda item tonight, please fill out the request to speak card located by the agenda and turn it into the secretary, who will call you to speak when the agenda item comes up for public comment. We ask you to give the spelling of your last name, and all public hearing comments should be addressed to me as the chair of the commission and not to individual commissioners or to staff members. Please turn off all electronic devices if you have not already done so. Pursuant to the City Council Resolution number 114-79, a commissioner who has received evidence related to a matter before the Planning Commission, other than an unescorted view of the subject property, is required to disclose such information at the hearing. What? Okay. Perfect. So. And we have the first agenda item up. Well, do I go public comment?
No, the last meeting.
It's okay. So for public comment, we didn't receive any speaker slips related to public comment.
Okay.
So if you'd like to continue on to
The
consent calendar.
Okay, perfect. The consent calendar. A single motion will cover all items on the consent calendar. Does the commission wish to pull any consent calendar items up for discussion? No. Perfect. Staff?
No changes from staff.
Perfect.
I move to adopt the consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor? Want to vote?
By unanimous vote of those present.
Perfect. Now we're on to the second item of the agenda. And this is really small. Should have brought my cheaters.
Great, thank you. This item is just a discussion item for the Planning Commission tonight. So item number 2 is related to a staff-initiated review for conditional use permit number 1026. That conditional use permit authorizes an annual display of fireworks with the homecoming football game at Granite Hills High School. The conditional use permit does allow for self-renewal if there's no record of complaints from the previous year. This review is based on a complaint that was related to the October 2022 fireworks display. Okay. So the conditions of approval for the CUP are shown here, and they require that the school obtain a permit from Heartland Fire and Rescue at least 5 days prior to the event and obtain an on-site inspection on the day of the event. It also requires that the display be conducted by a licensed pyrotechnician and that it be no longer than 20 minutes during the halftime of the football game. Additionally, 30 days prior to the event, the school is required to notify all adjoining property owners and occupants of properties located within 300 feet of the high school's boundaries, as well as anyone else that requests notification in writing. And then lastly, fireworks are to be used primarily for visual display, and so the conditional use permit says that they won't use, they're commonly called reporters, which are kind of the loud exploding fireworks. So the complaint that was received was related to notices not being sent out 30 days prior to the event. We did receive information indicating that notices were postmarked on October 11th of 2022, I apologize, and that the homecoming fireworks occurred later that week. So staff did contact the school and confirm that the notices were mailed late, not within the 30-day time frame that's required by the conditional use permit. School staff did indicate that staffing changes led to the oversight, and they further confirmed that they intend to operate in conformance with the conditions of approval in this coming year. There were no other issues with the remaining conditions of approval for last year's fireworks. In response, we sent out a public hearing notice for this to all property owners within 300 feet and to all people that commonly receive the notices for the fireworks. We received 2 emails in support of the fireworks, one indicating that it was a great tradition for the school. We did also receive 1 phone call in opposition to the fireworks continuing. Additionally, staff reached out to the Shadow Mountain Community Church. If you recall, for a portion of the Planning Commission, last June, the Shadow Mountain Community Church was granted a conditional use permit to have fireworks in and around the 4th of July. And in conjunction with that conditional use permit public hearing, the Planning Commission discussed potentially updating the zoning code to no longer require a conditional use permit for fireworks, and just to have operational conditions like we discussed on this conditional use permit to regulate fireworks moving forward. When the complaint was received in relation to the Granite Hills fireworks in October, staff removed that from the scope of the zoning code cleanup that the Planning Commission approved in December. And so we decided to wait and to further that discussion in conjunction with this discussion item. So in conjunction with this review, first you'll see on this slide the options that the Planning Commission has tonight. You could initiate a revocation of the conditional use permit, or you could propose to modify the conditions of approval. Alternatively, you could choose to accept the report and allow for the continued self-renewal of the fireworks display. Staff's recommendation is to accept the report based on the assurances from the school that moving forward that they will comply with the notification requirements. And then as part of the recommendation, staff would request feedback regarding a future zoning code cleanup to eliminate the requirement for the conditional use permit and just add operational conditions that would be part of a different permit. So that concludes staff's report. Happy to answer any questions.
Yes, you say operational conditions. What is the difference between a CUP and operational conditions? If you could explain that to me.
Sure. So the conditional use permit has conditions that are shown here on this slide, and so those were the conditions about getting an inspection from Heartland Fire and Rescue 5 days prior to the event, having the fireworks display conducted by a licensed pyrotechnician, and providing notice to surrounding property owners. Sometimes when something becomes common and there's just these typical types of conditions that get applied to the same event over and over, staff will sometimes initiate an update to the zoning code just to codify those requirements, and so that someone could then just come in and get the operational permit from Heartland Fire rather than having to go through the entire conditional use permits application process. So it would essentially streamline the review process. Typically a conditional use permit, it looks at an analysis of, surrounding uses and issues with compatibility. But if we know specifically that there's these 5 things that need to be added to every conditional use permit and we don't see a need for other things, then it may be warranted just to update the code and streamline the process for anyone that wants to do a fireworks display.
From hearing correctly, it's a continued conditional permit on an automatic basis.
The way the conditional use permit was set up for Granite Hills, it allowed for automatic self-renewal, so it's kind of almost operating in that fashion right now. It's just whether or not we want to afford that same privilege to Shadow Mountain Community Church in conjunction with their 4th of July fireworks displays as well.
And the complaint that the city received was a complaint only that the notice was not received on time or at the appropriate time. There was no other extenuating circumstances regarding the complaint.
Generally, yes, that's my understanding. I know that we have some public speakers that can speak to the issue of the notifications that have filled out some speaker slips, but yes, that's staff's general understanding.
Thank you.
Quick question. With the fireworks, let's say for Shadow Mountain Church, it'll be the same type of fireworks that Granite Hills will be doing. Won't be any of the booms. It'll just be the regular visual display type fireworks.
Right. So staff would need to bring that back to the Planning Commission to look at the specific language in the code in the future.
Okay.
So we just wanted to be transparent about initiating that process just because of the complaint that was coming on at this point. That's what we discussed last year, was just making it as part of the code so that Shadow Mountain doesn't have to apply for the conditional use permit in advance of their 4th of July fireworks this year.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Do any of the members of the public do we have any speaker cards on this item?
We do. So if we could open the public hearing.
Sure. Open public hearing.
Okay, the first card is for Tina Shaw.
Hi, thank you. Tina Shaw, S-H-A-W. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to address the Granite Hills School fireworks conditional use permit after the failure to comply with the notification requirement this past fall. The failure to comply with the conditional use permit is the fault and responsibility of the adults, not the students. Since the mid-1980s, when Granite Hills High School decided to add a fireworks display to their homecoming activities, the requirements have remained consistent. From the superintendent of the Grossmont Union High School District to each administrator at Granite Hills High School, they are responsible for ensuring all requirements are met. There is no excuse for failure to notify residents. However, the adults continue to make excuses for their failure to comply with the conditional use permit. This is not the first failure to notify residents. It isn't even the 5th or 6th failure to notify. Granite Hills High School has made the same mistake over and over again. Each time, the council members choose not to act with any consequence, so Granite Hills High School has learned that they will not have a consequence for failing to follow guidelines and be able to continue with their fireworks and repeat the same actions in upcoming years. The message sent also includes devaluing the needs of the neighborhood. We don't matter. What is that teaching our students? Decades ago, Valhalla High School did not have their stadium lights and used the Granite Hills field. When Valhalla failed to notify residents, the council suspended the conditional use permit and the fireworks were not allowed. The school could reapply the following year. Valhalla canceled the show, lost money, and had to reapply. Granite Hills violates the conditional use permit, and they have the fireworks and don't have to reapply after each year. This doesn't seem equitable and never has. As a longtime resident in this area of over 50 years, I am supportive of the school. I'm also a resident who is supportive of our neighborhood. Recognizing that a notification is a requirement and that parameters must be met, the purpose is to allow these residents with PTSD, anxiety-ridden animals, and livestock that need to be transported the opportunity to make arrangements. As a law-abiding citizen and teacher, I know the importance of educating our students, even when some lessons have actions that aren't popular. I am concerned with the message that is being sent. This is our opportunity to teach a valuable lesson to the adults who have made excuses and failed to educate the ASB students who are assigned the task of notifying the residents. This is your opportunity to show residents that a conditional use permit works the same for all groups, that a school doesn't have special consideration to violate your requirements. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I do have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, Ms. Shaw, you said that there have been many other times
Correct.
that the requirement was violated.
Correct.
Did anyone complain at those times, or?
Yes, we had many meetings here in the council. Many of the violations were in the beginning in the early 80s and 90s.
Right.
In the violation, and with the work of the council, there were some modifications, clarifications made in the conditional use permit, but since then it's been consistent. And although there's been turnover, like as people retire and go, the process for your conditional use permit has not changed. So my point's from the top down, they know this. So when they hire someone that's new, the adults that are in the administration need to make sure those who now are tasked with following this conditional use permit are given the information so mistakes like this don't happen. The frustrating part is, as I said, Granite Hills has gotten away with the failure to follow the rules over and over again. And it just, the reaction has always been that we don't matter as residents. We've had to cancel vacations, we've lost animals, we've had injuries to animals, we've had people have panic attacks and things like that because we haven't been notified. And we follow the conditional use permit, and we ask that others follow the conditional use permit.
I understand. In the last 5 years, how many times were you not notified, other than this particular situation last year?
I think in the last 5 years, Granite Hills has been on target as far as notifying us. It's gotten very close a few times. But this was the first time, I believe, in the last 5 years that we've had to bring it to the attention of the commission.
Thank you very much, Ms. Shaw.
So in regards to, thank you for coming, first of all.
Welcome.
Forgive my voice.
No problem.
If procedurally they notify you, do you have any objections to the fireworks?
No, we've accepted the fact that this is the process. I'm a little concerned hearing they want to take away the conditional use permit, because then I worry that we'd have, more mistakes made by other groups, which then would affect us. But that's on probably another day and another conversation. But as residents, we recognize there's guidelines, and we expect anyone who applies to do this to follow those guidelines, and we respect the fact that we need to accept it and follow those guidelines. So while it might be inconvenient for us to have to deal with that, if we're still following it and we're okay with it. We're not like anti-Granite Hills or anti-fireworks. We're like, just follow the rules so everybody knows what's going on.
But if they're following the guidelines and the procedures, are you against the fireworks?
No.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you so much. I appreciate, very well spoken. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other cards?
We do.
Perfect.
Brian Snow.
My name is Brian Snow. I am the executive pastor at Chatham Mountain Community Church, SNOW. This big sign that says "Keep it 3 inches away." So, Brian Snow, SNOW. I'm the executive pastor at Chatham Mountain Community Church. I'm here to speak in support of the staff proposal, and also just to speak to our experience last year. The neighbors were very reasonable. We actually worked out a transaction between the church and any neighbor who needed help with costs of relocating their animals, and it worked out really well. So I think we have we just wanted to come down here to show support for the proposal and answer any questions you might have.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Anybody any questions?
No.
No?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speaker cards?
We have one more.
Perfect.
Al Guerra.
Hello.
My name is Al Guerra, Guerra. I'm the current ASB advisor or director at Granite Hills High School. I graduated from there in '88. I grew up in the neighborhood right around the corner from Mrs. Shaw. For 28 years I spent there, so I understand the fireworks from Granite Hills High School. I understand the issues with the neighbors. I was the neighbor with my pets and the notifications and everything like that. So I do understand that. I also understand that the process, in listening and hearing Mrs. Shaw, one of the things that I do agree with is that there needs to be a process where when there is changeover, people here. And it was one thing to say that the superintendent or those others, assistant superintendents under them, should understand that, but that's not where we sit today. So we should be able to come up with something that I can go and present it to our district and say, hey, look, when there is turnover, we need to make sure if we're going to continue the fireworks that these notifications go out. That's what's fair. That's what's being asked of Ms. Shaw, and I can appreciate that coming in. I also understand the processes as this is my third term as a school board member in Alpine. So all those worlds, it's all coming to me now. We went through COVID, so we didn't have fireworks through COVID. This was a first process that I kind of went through. We do have new administration, so the process, I knew that letters needed to go out. I didn't know when or anything, and I got a letter from NOAA after the fact, right, that hey, this has been violated and everything like that. So for me, the process was like, oh, okay, wait a minute. I need to apologize to some people and figure out how we're going to do this moving forward. It definitely is. I did not bring kids here to cry or to try to persuade anybody anything, because I felt this was an adult situation for now, and I think it is moving forward. I would like to, one, apologize to the city of El Cajon and of course to Mrs. Shaw. We spoke briefly beforehand. I think it's something that we can rectify. It's simple, and I've already given her the date for homecoming next year, October 6th. So, and we'll get those. I don't know when we can send those out, how early we can send those out, but the earliest we can get them done, then that's when we'll do it. But I would hope that we'd be allowed to continue the fireworks.
I don't think that she's saying she's against the fireworks.
No, I don't think she is either.
But procedurally, there's a problem here. If she's saying that it's happened over and over again, you must agree that there's a disconnect, and I think all she's saying is that they want to be notified. So if there's a disconnect, I think it's something that we can fix. But this is on Granite Hills side, not on the neighbors. Now, my kid went to Granite Hills. I know the fireworks. It's a good event. What she's saying is procedurally there's a disconnect.
I'm in agreement with that. That's what I'm saying. I totally understand the disconnect piece, but in this particular case for this year, the disconnect was in having all new administration, and I think that's what Ms. Shaw is pointing out, is that there is new administration and there needs to be from the top up a procedure going in when there are changeovers, so this doesn't happen again. And I think if we can have the help of the city of El Cajon also reminding us that there is this permit that we need to go to, and because for me, all I did was hire a fireworks company. He said, we're taking care of the permits. And so then it's like, okay, perfect.
One more thing, being from El Cajon, from where Granite Hills is, there's horses, there's cows, there's chickens, there's roosters, there's all
donkeys.
There's all kind of animals over there. It's not that they're saying that they're against it. We have to be mindful of the community that's there, and she's
Again,
right. She's right that if we're going to do this kind of event, all she's asking is just tell us, and if there's a disconnect, let's fix it so that way she can be aware of it. I think this is something that we can solve pretty easily.
Yes, I agree.
It's nothing. Excuse me, nothing more than notifications. So I think this is something we can fix.
Yes,
So currently, the ASB, you're in charge of the ASB
Yes.
there right now. How long have you been there then?
So this is my 4th year.
Your 4th year. So in those 4 years, was there ever any sort of like printout for, because I know the ASB, they have certain things, just maybe if we just have a paper going forward, the plan, the simple fix, just so you know.
Now that I know
Yeah.
the issue, it's
Yeah.
a lot easier because,
Yeah.
again, if you ask anybody, I'm a policy and procedures person. So to kind of hear this, I was really
But you
frustrated
came in
with the situation.
2019 where there really was nothing because
There was
that's
nothing.
COVID. So it's just one sheet of paper would have fixed that. I'm sure you got that paper
Yes.
in there now for
It's
future
all taken care of.
generations. So
Yes.
thank you so much for.
That's why I don't know when the earliest is
Yeah.
that we can send the notices
Yeah.
out, but I would like to get them out as soon as we can.
Can we get like an updated kind of breakdown of those notifications to give into the school just because apparently they lost it or something?
So staff maintains the list of additional property owners. So the conditional use permit requires notices to all property owners,
Okay.
but then it also requires notices to additional people that request notification. So staff maintains that list.
Okay.
Now that I know the 2023 homecoming date of October 6th, I will place a reminder on my calendar as of right now for September 1st. So we have a little over 35 days to make sure, that we're sending them out in advance.
Do we have any like procedures for them as to when they need to notify so that going forward ASB can contact you guys in the proper time frame?
Yeah, the conditional use permit requires that the notices be sent out 30 days prior.
Okay.
So maybe we'll do a little bit earlier than September 1st.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or? Oh,
No other questions.
other questions? Any other speaker cards?
Nope, that was it.
We got all 3 that are here.
Is that public hearing?
We're going to close public hearing on this item.
I second it.
Actually,
Oh,
it's
go
not
ahead.
I apologize. This is
Oh.
just a
Oh,
discussion
the
item.
open discussion.
So we were
I'm just-
taking
he's-
public comment.
Okay, perfect.
So the recommendation from staff is just to provide direction. So you have the options of looking at revoking or amending the conditional use permit. So you could give direction to staff to bring it back if you wanted to make modifications. Otherwise, you could accept the report and acknowledge that the school has indicated that they intend to operate in conformance with the conditional use permit. And then if you have any additional feedback in regards to potentially updating the zoning code, one more comment on the update to the zoning code. What I would say is that we're not looking to, talk about all the issues or requirements right now.
Mm-hmm.
If you say to staff, work on that, then we will work on it. We will bring back something, and then you'll have an option or an opportunity to look at that at a future public hearing and provide feedback on those specific details.
Perfect.
I'm of the opinion that you get what you inspect. So, and if you have a regulation and the regulation is not enforced, what's the reason for having the regulation?
Yeah.
So I'm leaning toward of changing the CUP a little bit. For example, whenever the school sends out the notices, to notify the city that those notices have been sent out, and to move forward until when the city acknowledges that they have received the notification. Like that, we'll make sure the notification gets sent, and then maybe down the line in the future, we could eliminate that amendment to the CUP. But that's my recommendation, is that the school notifies the city, and the city acknowledges that they received the notice, that the letters have gone out, and then from that point on, it's the same as it was before.
Isn't that procedure in place? It just seems to me that it just needs to be followed. That's my question.
Correct. So the conditional use permit does require that the city is the holder of the list of people that gets the notifications. So essentially, yes, the school is required to contact us in order to get that list. The homecoming date will change. Periodically, it's not always the first week in October. It differs, but as alluded to by some of our speakers, they have operated in conformance with the conditional use permit over the last 5 years. This was the first instance that we're aware of any violation of that notification. So I think that's why staff arrived at the conclusion. We've had discussions both with Mr. Guerra and with the principal at the school. We've notified new staff here at City Hall about providing those notices. Really, we wanted to just acknowledge the importance of informing the surrounding property owners and provide this review in accordance with the procedures that are in there when a complaint does come through, because this is really probably one of the best forums for bringing that to light, making sure everyone's on the same page, and that no one messes up again.
So it's more of following the procedures and notification. To me, it's a simple fix.
Yeah.
Just follow the rules. Follow the rules in place. Let's not recreate the wheel, and let's just follow the rules in place respectfully.
And
But
I was just going to say, then additionally, if there were to be another violation in this coming year, then we would bring it back to the Planning Commission to take a look at it again.
Yeah, however, something failed. They're supposed to contact the city, then the city gives a list to the school, so that wasn't followed through. However, if the school notifies the city that we're sending out the notices, and then the city has to acknowledge that then the communication is there. There is no fail-safe. You see what I mean? So therefore, I think setting up that procedure where the school notifies the city acknowledges that they received the notice, and then they can move forward from that point on. Not move forward without the city acknowledging it first. You see what I'm trying to say?
do you currently acknowledge when they do the request or no?
Yeah, I think that's something that staff could definitely input in conjunction with the CUP moving forward.
So I think
To do that, I'm sorry.
no. I'm just saying that maybe the CUP just stays in place at least for one more year till we know that they solidified knowing the processes, and then adding that to it might just solve it. And then going forward, we could revisit just kind of making it more streamlined, maybe.
Yes.
Would there have to be any changes to do what he's asking, to propose it?
I think I would say from a staff perspective that procedure is in place. It obviously failed last year, but I think by having this discussion with the Planning Commission and holding everyone accountable, including city staff as well as the school, I think that we can all work cooperatively to ensure that happens moving forward. So, like I said, they do have to come to us to get the list of people, and so at that point, that's the time that we should be communicating, to make sure that they're 30 days out, and that they're doing everything in conformance with the regulations. So, I think ultimately, from staff's perspective, the reason why we're recommending to accept the report is that there was a failure last year, but they've acknowledged the failure, and they've acknowledged a willingness to address that, and so that's the basis for the staff recommendation.
Gotcha.
However, my understanding from Mrs. Shaw is that it has happened before, and it has come up before the council before, and obviously it wasn't fixed. It still continues.
Well, she said that the early, like the 80s and the 90s, it was a problem, but then for a while it was running like a well-oiled machine, and then there was occasional, yeah.
Yeah, it was at the beginning that it was wrong.
So I think maybe if we just keep it in place for right now till we get a well-oiled machine back, so there won't be these discrepancies again.
I'm of the opinion of putting the amendment at this point in time.
Well, currently, I think with this past time, the staff just didn't reach out to find out when the date was, so they knew they were notified, but then they found out later that what they didn't, it wasn't the 30 days. They just went ahead and just, so.
Correct. The notices went out late this past year.
Gotcha.
And after the notices went out, we received the complaint. Then we confirmed with the school the violation of the conditional use permit, and then we worked with the school and the complainant to schedule this discussion item so that we could all be here to discuss what happened.
So then just moving forward, if they call and say, oh, we're having our homecoming, let's say October 1st, I don't know when it is exactly, but if they do it, let's say September 15th, you're like, well, that's not going to work because you haven't sent out the notifications yet. So we just need to verify that it's 30 days in advance going forward, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That brings up another question in my mind. Did the school request for a list of all people to be notified in October of September of last year?
The school distributed the notices, and I was not the specific person that provided any lists to the school. but I wasn't aware of any other issues with the notifications that went out other than the complaint about them being late.
But when was a request received from the city for the list of names last year?
So I don't have a date, and I'm not sure who specifically from the school had reached out to the city. So I don't have that date.
I'm trying to hold everybody accountable.
No, I
The
agree.
school accountable and the city accountable in both areas.
No, I
and I
agree.
think that amendment would hold both of them accountable,
Okay.
at least for this time being.
So do you want to make the,
Yeah, are we ready to make a motion?
any,
Or to accept the report? Oh, okay. Well, my recommendation is for the school to notify the city and the city to notify the school that they have received the request and that the notices have gone out. I think to put that stipulation in the CUP, to me, that's reasonable.
So I think the option could be you could provide that direction to staff and then also accept the report and acknowledge that. Otherwise, you could direct staff to initiate an amendment to the conditional use permit to make a change to the approving resolution. So those would be the two options. I think staff's recommendation would be to accept the report and provide that guidance to staff.
Well, you've heard what my recommendation is, and what I stated is my recommendation.
Sure. So I would just ask as the motion, because you indicated to direct staff to make those procedural changes. Just if you could specifically state if your motion is to direct staff to bring back the conditional use permit, to amend the approving resolution, or if that is just direction to staff for this coming year and to accept the report.
To amend.
Okay.
Want me to say anything else?
No.
Okay.
Sorry. So if it's to amend the conditional use permit, then you'd be looking for a second on the motion.
I will second that.
Please vote. Okay.
Motion carries with 2 yes votes from Pollock, Rood, and Sotile, and 1 no from Edison.
Doesn't carry.
I'm sorry, you'll have to bring this up at a different commission meeting because everything passed tonight has to be by a quorum, and that would be 3 votes.
This one carries on to, no.
I'm not saying that your recommendation is bad, but what I'm saying is, what I'm hearing is the neighborhood is not saying no. The neighborhood is saying follow the rules that are in place, and that's why
We're not saying no to the fireworks. We're just saying, just trying to improve the processes so things get done. And
I understand. I'm just. It seems to me that the process is in place. It just failed a couple of times, and we just need to clean it up.
I understand what you're saying is the process has failed, and what I said earlier, you get what you inspect. So we want to keep the process in place. The only thing I want to add is an inspection. An inspection would be to make sure that the school notifies the city, and the city notifies the school that everything is in order to process. That's all. Not changing the fireworks. We're just that failure that happened, not to let it happen again. That's the procedure.
just to confirm the date, because the last time they notified the city, but it was too late. But no one said, okay, well, you notified us too late, now we have to cancel the fireworks because we're not 30 days out, and we can't give out the notices. So we just need a confirmation that, yeah, this is the date, yes, we received it, yes, here's the information to send it out, and they've been sent out. So we know, we can confirm it's a 30-day notice for the people who need the 30-day notice. That's
I understand. I think that this is more just for the school, and respectfully, I just think that it's important for you to understand. Like I said, I've been El Cajon my life. I watched the fireworks. I just think we all need to. I think, at least from our perspective, it just affects other people in a different way, and they just want to be notified. And I think this is a simple cleanup. I really think this is a simple cleanup. Yeah. This is I think this can be fixed. We just needed better communication. We need to follow the process, follow the rules. I think it can be fixed.
You want to make another motion?
No.
Okay. You want to carry over to the next meeting, or you want to settle it now?
I want to go with the staff's recommendation. Respectfully, I think that their staff's
Well,
recommendation is fine.
if we go with the way that it is, staff's recommendation, and then have them make those changes, not an amendment, but just kind of revise it?
Yeah, staff would be happy to accept that direction from the Planning Commission, so we would be happy to implement that procedure administratively at the staff level. So if the Planning Commission should choose to accept the report, we would confirm that staff would implement that procedure moving forward. And then I think based on the discussion and the feedback that I'm hearing, we should separately direct Shadow Mountain to apply for their own conditional use permit and have them bring that forward for their event on the 4th of July.
Okay. Are you okay with that?
Yes, I'm trying to save my voice as much as I can. Yes.
Yes and no. Let me give you my reason. Staff changes also, as the
Yes.
school staff changed. And that, even though staff says that we'll do that, if it's not in writing, there's
It
a
doesn't
possibility
exist.
that it won't be done. For example, if it wasn't in writing for the school, for that process, it won't be done.
Yeah.
So what I'm suggesting is that there's a check on both sides, because if it's not in writing, anything can happen.
Correct.
So I would like to make an amendment. So next meeting, if we're not in agreement here, that's just.
No, that's fine. We can continue this to the next scheduled meeting.
Okay.
We don't have any items on our next upcoming agenda, so I would anticipate potentially bringing this back in April.
Okay.
And then we can have a full commission in order to have a decision.
Okay. Till the next meeting. And so we
Then
did
insofar as having a cleanup for the regarding having the automatic CUP, I mean, I'm for it. I'm not against that. For future
Not for
events.
today.
Huh?
Not for today.
Not for today,
but
right.
for
To bring
future
it up at
things.
the next meeting, yes,
Correct.
that would be good.
Okay.
So maybe I could introduce a nuance then to the discussion. So the issue is that the conditional use permit obviously was approved, many decades ago, right? And we've been working with this resolution over time. And what staff was suggesting in conjunction with the cleanup would be to have all of those ongoing conditions as an amendment to the code. So the code specifically says all those things, and it would apply to every fireworks event. And so the alternative that you could consider tonight would be to accept the report and then direct staff to make those changes to the code that we were recommending. And then you would have that condition that you're advocating for in the municipal code and apply to all events moving forward. So it could be an effective compromise because that new code amendment would apply to Granite Hills High School as well as to Shadow Mountain, and then it would allow Shadow Mountain to proceed potentially without having to get a conditional use permit.
I would be agreeable to that compromise.
And when are you going to be doing this amendment to the code?
We promised that we would bring back a code amendment update in the spring. So in conjunction with working with Shadow Mountain over the past year, we said that we would do that in advance of their planned events for this coming 4th of July. So hopefully, I would think in April and May.
Okay. You'd be okay with that? Because then it'll be a writing for everything, not just Granite Hills.
Right,
With
as long as that what I recommended would be in the code.
Yeah.
Yes, it would be in writing.
I'd be agreeable to that compromise.
So great. If we could have a motion then to accept the report and direct staff to bring back an amendment to the municipal code in accordance with Commissioner Sotile's recommendations, that would be great.
I so move.
So second.
Vote.
Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote of members present.
Did you get all that? Okay. Thank you. Do we need to close anything on this one, or do we?
No staff reports.
Any staff reports?
No additional communications from staff.
Okay. And
So we can move
commissioner
to
reports?
Any commissioner
no, we
reports?
don't have any report.
Any reports here? None?
No.
Perfect. So I guess we can
You want to adjourn?
adjourn.
I second it.
Everybody want to vote?
And motion carries by unanimous vote of members present.
Thanks for the fireworks, everyone.